Shows like Evangelion and Ghost in the Shell are known for their high influence, and are normally said to have changed or inspired a genre. We have a similar effect here, although on a smaller scale. You could say Mushishi is the anime for this genre, but there isn't really a specific genre these anime fall into. Anyway, the first thing you'll notice with Natsume Yuujinchou is how similar it is to Mushishi. It's an episodic show where our main character has the ability to see troublesome spirits. He spends his days helping people out who are affected by these spirits. Sounds familiar, right? But Natsume Yuujinchou has a staggering 4 seasons, so why is it so popular? It must be doing something new, right? Well, let's find out. Over the course of 4 seasons, Natsume Yuujinchou changes a lot. It starts out as a very light-hearted episodic show. In each episode, a new problem or character would show up. Natsume would then spend the episode showing us how kind he is and inevitably fixing the problem. The episode then ends and you'll probably forget about it after the next episode. And this format for me was great. It was something I could very casually enjoy on those Sunday evenings where I just wanted to turn my brain off and chill out. The episodes weren't that adventurous, but it felt nice. I didn't have to stress over new situations or scenery. I knew exactly what I was going to get when I went into the episode, and it gave me exactly that. The show was achieving exactly what it wanted to do, but as the seasons went on, the show started to lose focus of what it was all about. Side characters would become more frequent, stories would become 2 episodes long, and an overarching story was emerging, but the episodic nature was still there. This causes quite a few problems. Season 3 was where it really started to have an identity crisis. It's as if the writers got bored of the original episodic concept and wanted to make something more solid, but didn't feel brave enough to completely change the formula. This created a real problem. The story wasn't just episodic anymore, so characters started wanting to develop, which can't really happen when things start and end in 20 minutes. The story introduces characters that should have affected Natsume in the story. We even got a chance for some romance, but because of the episodic nature of Natsume Yuujinchou, none of that could happen. Once the episode had ended, everything seemed to reset and the characters acted like nothing had happened. This was really disappointing. As much as I liked the episodic style, I would have loved to have seen an overarching story. But they haven't really decided on either yet. They keep switching between making things serious and then just using the original formula. This causes the viewer to feel distant from the characters and a bit confused. I wasn't sure if I was meant to treat the characters as just side characters, or if they were meant to contribute to the overall story. When they started to introduce a rather interesting bigger story, I started to feel that episodic stories had no real weight, and seemed pretty pointless. If they're going to make another season, they really need to decide what they want to be, and stick with it. They can't keep confusing the viewer by being episodic, and then overarching. Hopefully they'll fix this in the next season, but for now, the story for the last 2 seasons has been all over the place. That being said, they do have good ideas in writing, they just need to settle down with something. At its roots, the basic themes of Natsume Yuujinchou were pulled off really well. The show is all about family and friends, and how important they are. The writers always made sure that Natsume was reminded of how lucky he was to have such great family and friends. They done it so well that they even made me feel lucky about my friends and family. So at its core, Natsume Yuujinchou is still a nice, simple story. The characters suffer from the same problem as the story. Characters seem to develop, but it's all an illusion. The characters aren't actually affected by the things that are happening in most of the episodes. They feel very robotic and one-dimensional. I do like the cast of characters. It just seems that they're stuck in one time period and don't seem to ever change. 2 female characters were introduced, one with a very clear attraction to Natsume. This is the perfect setup for a love triangle. It even toys with the idea of a relationship in some of the episodes. But like the story, they just forget everything that happened in the next episode. But this could all be fixed if they just chose what they wanted to be. And then we could have a very nice cast of characters. Natsume is our main character. He's pretty likeable and enjoyable to watch. For the first few seasons he's pretty dull. But that didn't really matter. The series was less about Natsume as a character and more about what he got up to. But as the series went on, a problem started with Natsume. As the story started to mature, it starts trying to make us feel sympathetic towards Natsume. We're told over and over again that Natsume is troubled by his ability to see yokai, and that we should sympathise towards him. But should we really? When they bring this up, Natsume is living a really good life. He has a nice home to return to, he has a great group of friends that all get along with each other, and no one seems to look down at him for seeing yokai anymore. At first I was a bit annoyed at this. They were portraying a perfect life, but telling us to give him sympathy. Though unlike most aspects of the show, they fixed this with Season 4. They started to explore Natsume's childhood a lot more, and actually return to his past. They tell us how hard his childhood was, and give us some information about his parents. This then gives us a reason to feel sympathetic. They start to show us how he was affected by what he can see, and how he's suffered. You end up feeling sorry for him. Season 4 really developed Natsume, and I felt a lot more attached to him. I didn't feel like he was just there to create stories. The animation is the opposite of the story. The first 2 seasons were pretty low budget. A lot of the backgrounds looked very plain and the character designs lacked detail, but seasons 3 and 4 really stepped the game up. By season 4 the characters were very detailed and the scenery started to experiment a little. You could argue that the simple animation to start with worked better, but I much prefer the later episodes. When you have a show with such a large cast, it's sometimes hard to create unique designs for each one. Thankfully, Natsume Yuujinchou created a very nice and believable variety of character designs. Nothing stood out too much, but everything had a sense of fantasy and mystery. Overall, the animation worked well, but it wasn't impressive. Unfortunately, the OST is probably this show's most forgettable element. It was pretty generic and none of the tracks really stood out when I listened back. There were a lot of very slow tracks that worked okay in the show, but when listened back to were rather boring. Like the animation, it worked well but wasn't worth another listen. I did really like the openings and endings for each season. They were very catchy and showed off the show's tone very well. The biggest thing Natsume Yuujinchou needs is to find its identity. They've clearly shown us that they're capable of creating a good story. They just need to settle down with an idea. I personally preferred the earlier episodic style. It was simple, it worked well, and it didn't need to be too flashy. I don't mind the new style, they just need to sort things out. I would definitely say Natsume Yuujinchou is worth watching, at least season 1 or 2, but don't expect too much. It is, at its core, a simple episodic show, and they don't seem to be letting go of that. So did it live up to Mushishi? In a way yes, but in a way no. It captures the same feel as Mushishi, but due to its more comedic approach and high school setting, it felt a lot less mature. If you did like Mushishi, I would say you'll probably like Natsume Yuujinchou, but it isn't a show that will score that high for me. If you did enjoy Natsume Yuujinchou and are looking for a similar show, I'll give some recommendations. Mushishi is an obvious one. Natsume Yuujinchou has a number of similarities and uses a lot of Mushishi's elements. Hotarubi no Mori is everything Natsume Yuujinchou should have been. The premise is very similar, but the characters and story are taken way more seriously. And of course it's made by the same studio. Thank you for watching my review of Natsume Yuujinchou. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to click the like button and share it about. You can also click subscribe to see more of my reviews, or you can click on the screen. Thank you very much for watching and goodbye.